Welcome to all to my channel CA Comrades. Hashtag never give up. Engaged in developing concepts. Now we are going to start the part 2 of our chapter 2 of auditing. Let us go there. Yeah, here we go. So we have completed up to audit program, my dear students. Now we are going to study a little bit about audit procedures. Our next question is, what is the meaning of audit procedures? Audit procedures is saying that broad framework of audit carried out to obtain a sufficient and appropriate audit work, audit evidence, my dear students. So what is audit procedures? As you all know, audit procedures are the actions or the events or the tools or the methods or the techniques, etc., whatever so called as used or done or performed by audit or audit staff in order to obtain what? In order to obtain sufficient and appropriate audit evidence relating to what? Relating to different assertions of transactions, account balances, and disclosures. And this audit evidence definitely support the definitely support either the positive or negative of a particular assertion. ठीक है जी. Now, audit procedures are generally of two types, my dear students. First audit procedure is risk assessment procedures, and second one is further audit procedures. Let us first concentrate on risk assessment procedures. As an auditor, when you go for an audit of an entity, ठीक है जी, first the procedures to be performed by you are risk assessment procedures. Why, sir? First, we are performing only risk assessment procedures. I will make you know. Risk assessment procedures are performed initially by an auditor in order to determine risk of material misstatement as per SA 315. Okay, when we come to SA 315, we will get more in detail analysis of it, but I will definitely brief you up about risk assessment procedures. I call it as RAP. Okay, risk assessment procedures. Under risk assessment procedures, the main objective of auditor or main intention of auditor is to understand, follow my words, is to understand the client's business, the entity's whole business, its environment in which the entity is performing its business operations, and also obtain the understanding about its internal controls. Why, sir? The auditor needs to obtain information relating to the entity, its business, and its environment in which is acting. My dear students, by obtaining the knowledge, you shall identify various inherent risks related to such a business. After identifying the various inherent risks related to such business, you must identify the internal controls placed corresponding to such risks by the management. And if the management has placed any such internal controls, please again obtain the understanding of the internal controls, see whether they are relevant or not to mitigate such inherent risks, and do the testing of such internal controls also. Actually, risk assessment procedures includes the internal control testing also, but here we will discuss it as separate. It means under risk assessment procedures we are assessing inherent risk, and in further audit procedures the first one is compliance procedures. Under compliance procedures you are determining the control risk. Sir, what is control risk? Again, control risk is nothing but the detection, prevention, and correction of the material misstatement due to fraud or error is not done on timely basis by the internal controls placed by the management is called as control risk. Sir, I didn't understand anything. I will say in the normal words. Control risk nothing better if the management, as you all know, there are inherent risk in any business. To mitigate such inherent risk, the management needs to place the internal controls. But don't you? But the such internal controls placed by the management may be inappropriate or not functioning properly, and because of such reason the control risk is high. It means control perform the internal controls performance is weak, and hence the control risk is very high. We have discussed it in the if you have seen the first video, we have discussed it in the first video. The second aspect of the audit plan, what was it? We are determining the reliance on the internal controls. After understanding internal controls, that reliance we will keep low if the control risk is high, like that. ठीक है ना? No, that is compliance procedures. But as for SC 315, risk assessment procedure itself includes the compliance procedures, but it here we are showing separately. In exam also you show separately only. Now, risk assessment procedures, so we will determine after or doing all these things, after finding out inherent risk, then the corresponding control risk, you will multiply the inherent risk with the control risk, and you will get what? You will get risk of material misstatement. And if the risk of material misstatement assessed is low or medium or high, depending upon the result, you will change the NTE of the substantive audit procedures. Nothing but the second part of further audit procedures. Okay, na? Let us come to the now second part. You have understood the first part of further audit procedures, compliance procedures, no? Yes. The second part is substantive audit procedures. Now this is assessment procedures and compliance procedures will influence the substantive procedures, includes analytical review procedures and test of details. See, substantive procedures are of two types. One is analytical procedures and second one is test of details. So what is meaning of analytical review procedures? If you have listened to the first video, I have explained, I have given example, one example I have given to analytical review procedures, but still I will explain you here. Analytical review procedures are nothing but, Nana, you are comparing the ratios, trends, etc. of a particular account and verifying over the period of years whether it is going in the same trend or not. And you are, if a particular finance or current year financial period account balance is not in is not as per the trend which you have identified, then definitely there might be a risk inherent during the year in such a assertion or account balance. Then you will become careful and keeps inherent risk as very high. So like that, analytical review procedure is used as a risk assessment procedure also, and also in substantive procedures. Sir, substantive procedures is what? See, after assessing the risk high or low, depending upon that your checking depends. Yes, in our example, risk is ROMM, that is risk of material misstatement is high. Therefore, you will do more sampling. You will select more sampling. As per SA 320, your materiality you will keep less. Why less? Because you want to check more number of invoices. If the number of materiality is very less, when the number of materiality is very less, then definitely your sample size will be increased, my dear students. Don't worry, this is not important. This concept or taking relating to risk assessment procedures, materiality, this is not so important in second chapter. Just a small brief is given about it in second chapter. Don't worry if you are not understanding anything. The same I will make a perfect video on it in detail explanation. Slowly I will do for it, because that is base of any audit. Okay, it is any auditor must know it very comfortably. I will make a separate video. Don't worry, my dear students. Till now this much understanding, if you understood, very good, or if not understood also, very good, no need to worry. Now just a brief thing, ma. Risk assessment procedures meaning is the audit procedures performed to obtain an understanding of the entity and its environment and also internal control system. Purpose is to identify and assess the risk of material misstatement in FS. As I said, note also the risk may arise from fraud or error. As you all know, risk not only there is a risk not only of fraud but also of errors also, because errors we have to correct the errors also, otherwise shareholders will be deceived by FS. Now, further audit procedures includes first compliance procedures, examination of internal controls to determine the effectiveness in order to determine net of substantive procedures to be performed. So yes, obviously by performing risk assessment procedures and compliance procedures we are determining the ROMM, and ROMM definitely influences the net. Net is nothing but not internet. Net is nothing but nature, extent and timing of substantive procedures or further audit procedures. In detail explanation I will give. Don't worry once again. Okay. Now let's jump to the second page. Yeah, Again, substantive procedures: examination of accounting records including financial statements to determine reliability of information therein. Sir, once again you read, no please. Yes, obviously. So examination of accounting records including the financial statements to determine reliability of information therein. I said no. After determining the ROMM, you have selected, you assessed it as low. If you have assessed it as low, then out of the 1 lakh invoices of sales, you will check only, for example, 100 invoices. That is enough. Okay, for example, sir, romam is high, then I might have checked 500. Not 100% population checking is not not a compulsion, and at the same time it is not possible also. Okay, I am checking 100 invoices. So how I have to check 100 invoices? Nothing, nana. You have to see, pick up one invoice, see whether such sale has actually incurred or not. There are certain assertions that such assertions must be satisfied. Relating to such assertions, you need to obtain a audit evidences. Such assertions are coming in the next page, my dear students. Don't get worried. For while checking the transactions, classes of transactions, there are certain assertions. For account balances, there are certain assertions. So you need to satisfy such assertions. Satisfy is nothing but you need to obtain audit evidence relating to such assertions. Assertions, for example, as you are checking here, sales are called as a class transactions, not account balance. The items of balance sheet are called as account balance. The items of balance sheet are called as account balances, whereas the items of P and L are called as transactions. So now the transactions you need to check. Now in checking such transactions, we have 5 assertions, my dear student. First of all, okay, I will later on, I will definitely explain assertions. For example, just a 5 assertions name I will say for transactions. For transactions, first one is occurrence. Second one is occurrence, whether such a transaction has really occurred or not. You are checking one invoice, you need to obtain an audit evidence relate to satisfy yourself that whatever invoice I am seeing of sale, whether it actually occurred or this is a fake invoice. Okay, second one is complete. So whatever the say 1,000 invoices they have given a dump to me, whether it is complete or something is missing. Okay, on that also you need to obtain audit evidence and satisfy yourself. And third one is a cutoff. Cutoff means this year transactions, whatever have been occurred are recorded in this year or not, or whether it is recorded next year. That satisfaction also you need to obtain. Okay, na. Then fourth one, we have a classification means whether if properly the revenue expenditure and capital expenditure are properly classified or not. We need to check, my dear students. Okay, my dear students, now substantive procedures, as you know, there are two types. You can perform analytical procedures or also you can perform test of details. Sir, test of details in general is nothing, nana. Whatever example I given, no, take invoice, check all the 5 assertions are properly complete, as properly okay, done or not. If not proper, then there is a misstatement, then please communicate to the TCWG whether it can be corrected or not. That these things, checking the invoices and observing whether properly all the assertions are completed or not, and getting comfort on the assertions is nothing but test of details. But catching the misstatements due to fraud or error through using the ratios or trends, etc., is called as analytical procedures. There is a slight difference in the two. Okay, no, that's what. So this is test of details. Test of details for account balances is also done and transactions is also done. There is a word difference when you are checking a transaction, when you are obtaining sufficient and appropriate audit evidence to satisfy or to get comfort on the assertions related to transactions, then such process is called as vouching. What did I just say? Vouching. Please look at your screen right side. Vouching. Now test of balances. In test of balances is nothing but account balances, the items of balance sheet. When you are verifying or obtaining the evidences, audit evidences relating to the assertions of account balances, such process is called as verification. Please remember, transaction checking, vouching, balance checking, verification, transaction checking, vouching, balance checking, verification. Okay, na? Chalo. Now, analytical review procedures. Evaluation of financial information by understanding the relationship between financial and non-financial data. Sir, what is understanding the relationship between the financial and the non-financial data? I didn't understood. For example, I will make you understand. In current year financial statement, you are the auditor, and in the current year financial statements, in the debit side of P&L, you can see to salary 5 lakh rupees. To salary 5 lakh rupees, that means 5 lakh rupees has been accrued during the year by the entity. Okay, now you are checking whether actually 5 lakh is accurate number or whether it should be more or less. You are checking. Okay, now 5 lakh is accurate or not, you are checking now. Now, how to check the same using analytical review procedure, I will explain you. See, test of details also you can do by seeing all the salary slips, etc., etc., but it takes a long time. To you can also use analytical review procedures. For example, the last year employees were 10, okay na, and each one were getting 40,000. So last year's salary should be what? 10 into 40,000, 4 lakh. For example, current year there are 15. There are how much, nana? 15 employees. 5 employees increased, and each salary is how much? Suppose it increased to 50,000. Okay na, suppose it is increased to 50,000. Now please calculate what is 15 into 50,000. Please calculate. 15 into 50,000 is 7 lakh 50,000. Okay na, is 7 lakh 50,000. Oh, you have identified that array entity has 15 employees and each are getting 50,000. Then current year expense of for a month 7 lakh 50,000. For a month, the expenditure should be 7 lakh 50,000. Then why I am the entity is showing only 5 lakhs in the books? Definitely there is a error or fraud in this account. I have to be careful. So like that you are checking any fraud or error in each account while doing the audit of such account. You need to check that such material misstatement either using test of details or ARP. I think ARP is more effective than test of details. Test of details, as a human error, you may miss out something, but ARP, you will make you cautious that yes, there might be a material misstatement. Sir, then what is here non-financial data? Array the number of employees, that is a financial data. 15, that is a financial data? No. By using non-financial data, that is the number of employees, you are able to create a relationship between the salary, that is the financial data, and with the such relationship you are able to identify the misstatement. So evaluation of a financial information by understanding the relationship between the financial and non-financial data is called as a analytical review procedures. Not only in the financial and non-financial data, between one financial and other financial data also there is one example. I will later on explain you in the analytical review procedure chapter. Now, yeah, now we are again jumping into audit documentation, my dear student. Audit documentation, as you all know, work not documented, not done. So in first video, if you have listened, I have said the need of documentation, and I have given you nice example also of documentation, why the documentation is required, compulsion by the statutes. So audit documentation, it refers to record of audit procedures performed, audit evidence obtained, conclusions reached by auditor. See each and everything, each and every checking, each and every plan, each and the audit plan, audit, okay, programs, audit overall strategy, and the communication made to TCWG, the audit report itself, audit procedures performed in different areas, revision to audit plan, and overall audit strategy, audit evidences obtained, conclusions made by you, etc., etc. All things, each and everything what you have doing should be documented, and such documents are called as working papers, audit working papers, or audit files, my dear students. Now we are going to study the purpose of audit documentation. We have already discussed the purpose in detail in video 1, but still read these 2 points. Yes, obviously, evidence, that documented papers, working papers, acts as an evidence or auditor's basis for conclusion. On what basis the auditor has reached to unmodified opinion or modified opinion, he can be evaluated by any person by seeing his working papers. Now evidence that audit planned, performed, and as per standards of auditing and other legal requirements. Okay na? Chalo. Very simple, Nana. Now again we have advantages of audit documentation. Very important 5 points, Nana. Asked in exam. Very important question. That's why I'm saying you advantages of audit documentation. The first advantage I will read and fastly I will explain you. Very simple, Nana. Assisting engagement team to plan and perform audit. So whatever whoever the engagement team is leading the audit of a particular audit assignment. Definitely, if you are writing on a paper your plans, your step by step procedures to be performed, then it becomes very easy to you to plan and perform the audit. Yes or no? Just orally discussing with us and executing a task is very difficult. Rather putting everything on paper, our plans, and then systematically following it by observing such plans regularly and revising it, that is superbly brilliantly professionalism. Okay na? So assisting engagement team to plan and perform the audit, it will assist in planning and performing the audit successfully. Now it enables the engagement team to be accountable for their work. As you all know, in audit documentation, we will also document audit programs, and in audit programs, advantages also we have studied that it makes accountable the persons to whom a particular audit area has been assigned with. So this audit documentation, if the working paper have been made by a particular audit staff relating to the audit procedures performed by him and evidences obtained by him, then he will also sign on it. No, definitely. Then it makes him accountable for such work, and any mistake has been observed there, then he shall be responsible or accountable for it. So enabling the engagement team to be accountable to the work. Now assisting the engagement partners means the head, the auditors, the main auditors who are leading their audit staff, assisting the engagement partners to direct, supervise and review the audit work. We have learned in detail about direct supervision and review, how important they are. We need to plan about we in an overall audit strategy, it includes the direction, supervision and review, coordination of work in audit plan. Fourth aspect we have learned, if you remember in the first video, and to direct, supervise and review the audit. And it also overall audit strategy also we have learned its importance of reviewing the work by the partners. So definitely audit documentation will help them. Enabling the quality control, review and inspection. Quality control, if you have learned, it is SA 220 quality controls. If you have don't learn, I will make a video on it, don't worry my dear students. So enabling the quality control, review and inspections, enabling the external inspections, peer reviews. That is okay, you may not understand that much. Enabling the quality control, review and inspection. After making the audit documentation, you are in a position to see whether all the quality controls as per SA are complied or not. So again, write any four, Nana, it's okay. Four you have to need to write. For minimum 4 marks they will ask. Oh, sir, assisting engagement. See, all the 3 points are related to engagement team only, I think so. Yeah, engagement only. Assisting engagement team to plan and perform audit, making them accountable. Engagement partners can supervise, direct and review their work, enabling the quality control, review and inspection. Lastly, audit documentation. And you can also add own words, own points, Nana, because concept matters, not the by heart. Okay, na? Audit documentation includes what are audit documentation? Same points we have read in our what to say in first video ending also. Audit program, each and everything, Nana, we need to document. Okay, remember that. Manner of documentation shall be such that an experienced auditor who has no connection with the previous audit shall understand the planning and performance of audit based on the audit documentation. What it is saying, he is saying, if in exam they will ask, sir, how shall be the manner of documentation, then you need to write, sir, the manner of documentation of the audit work by an auditor shall be such that the other auditor who was not related to the previous audit assignment shall able to understand the audit plan and performance of audit based on the audit documentation. It means, for example, the previous year you were the auditor. Now you need to prepare documentation in such a beautiful manner, systematic manner, in detailed manner, such that the next auditor, whoever the company is appointing, shall understand how the previous audit has been planned out and performed by referring to your working papers. So in detail you need to prepare. Bolke he is saying such beautifully you need to prepare, systematically you need to prepare, in detail you need to prepare. You don't take it roughly. Okay na? Bolke is bowling. Chalo. Now, factors, form, content, and extent of documentation. It means in which form I need to document working papers. What are the contents to be included in that, and up to how much extent have to need to do documentation. These FCE, I will call it as FCE of documentation. Sir, FCE of documentation depends upon what? Sir, FCE of documentation depends upon the following factors. The FCE of audit documentation depends upon the following factors, my dear students. Okay now form, content, and extent of documentation depends on the following factors. You can write these factors on own. Once I read it, you will say, sir, it is very easy. Okay now, see the size and complexity of entity. When the size and complexity of entity is more, you are performing more audit, and therefore you will document more. And if it is less, you will perform less audit, and therefore you will document less. The level of assessed risk of material misstatement for a particular entity, the risk or ROMM is very less, then documentation shall be less. If the ROMM is high, you will do perform more audit, and therefore documentation is more. The effectiveness of internal controls. See, ROMM itself includes internal control study also. Okay na? The ROMM is it. See, I have given one formula of ROMM. Inherent risk into control risk is equal to ROMM bolke. So that control risk is determined by internal control study only, no? So from one point you can take different points. For example, you have taken the second point, like the level of assessed risk of material statement is high. Now you can take inherent risk is high, and fourth point you can take the effectiveness of internal controls is low or weak, or like that we need to write. So here only you got 3 points, and definitely these three will influence what? Net of audit procedures performed. Definitely one more point also came. Now the significance of audit evidence obtained. Okay, that is simple man. And nature and extent of exceptions identified. Chhod do usko. Now, experienced auditor means person having knowledge of AFRFW, AS. In the manner of documentation, I have used one word, experienced. Sorry, yeah? Experienced auditor. I have underlined that. Experienced auditor in the second line to the left side. Experienced auditor. Bolke. Sir, who is an experienced auditor? Sir, an experienced auditor is an auditor who has the knowledge of applicable financial reporting framework of the given entity, who has the knowledge of all accounting standards, who has the knowledge of all the standards of auditing, and knowledge of client's business also. Then he is called as experienced auditor relating to a particular audit assignment. Okay, now see, sir, I'm auditor. I'm not an accountant. Why knowledge of accounting standards is required for me? Oh, my dear students, by using accounting standards or guidance given to the accountant to prepare books of accounts in a proper and a beautiful and a systematic manner. If you only don't know that accounting standards, how you can able to check whether they are following accounting standards or not? You need to know accounting standards. Then only you can able to check whether they are following accounting standards or not. Okay, now that clarity I have given to you. Now, what is audit file? What, sir? This chapter is not at all ending, my dear. It is up to an end. Very, very important chapter, and I think you will not get bored. Okay, na? Audit file. It is a record of audit procedures performed. Arey sir, the record of audit procedure, all that we have studied in audit documentation. No. See, I will read this and again I will give you one thin line difference between audit working paper and audit file. It refers to storage of, or see, please try to understand this, analyze this point. It refers to storage of audit working papers of a specific engagement in a physical file or electronic storage medium. Okay na? So what is audit file? For example, a particular entity's particular financial year FS are being audited by you, and you have gathered all the working papers which you have generated during the audit of such entity. Now all such working papers, either if it is in physical form, you are keeping in a big physical file, or if it is an electronic form, you are preparing one folder, you are preparing a folder, and in that folder all such working papers you are dumping, and separately you are keeping it in a pen drive or storing it in a cloud or in your computer memory card, etc. Then such separate folder, electronic folder or physical file, containing the working papers of particular financial year of only one entities, that is called as audit file. Nana, audit file are of two types. One is permanent audit file and current audit file. What sir? Permanent means what sir? Current means what sir? Again in that I'll make you the clarity. See, assembly of the audit file first you will read. First leave that permanent and current. First assembly of the audit file we will read. Sir, what is assembly? Assembly means where we need to, after gathering in one physical file or pen drive, etc., where we need to store bulk. Now auditor shall, after completion of audit, after the issuance of the audit report, within 60 days shall assemble the audit file so as to keep it for future reference. Assemble means bringing all the working papers together and putting in a physical folder or electronic folder. Okay na? So assembling means that. So the auditor, there is a duty or a compulsion or a responsibility on auditor to create an audit file and keep it separately, store it separately, safely. Okay now, for future reference purposes. So before 60 days of issuing the audit report, he have to do such. What you have to do, Nana? Before 60 days of issuing the audit report of a particular entity, he have to make an audit file, either physical or electronically, store it safely for future references. Okay, na? This process is also called as working paper arrangement. Second point, assembly of audit file. After completion of audit is an administrative process and does not involve carrying out new or additional audit procedures or conclusion. My dear students, you have completed the audit and issued the audit report and opinion also. After that also you will perform any audit procedures. No, audit file is assembling the nothing, just to gathering working paper and storing it carefully for future references. Whoever, suppose any regulatory body comes and asks you to give that, I need to inspect it, then you have to give to them, and for such purpose you are storing it, and that does not include performing any substantive audit procedures, right? No. So he is saying that it is only an administrative process and does not involve carrying out new or additional audit procedures or conclusions. Please remember the point, administrative process. Assembly of audit file is administrative process, and the 60 days also never ever forget. Now, once the final audit file is assembled, okay, assembly over. Auditor shall not delete or discard audit documentation of any nature before completion of retention period. So once audit file is prepared and you have stored in a safe place, you shall not delete it or shall not destroy it. Okay, na? You shall not delete it or shall not destroy it up completion of the retention period. Sir, what is the retention period given? I will tell you. I will tell you. So retention period is the auditor shall retain the audit file minimum 7 years from the audit report. For example, for 2019-20 financial year, you have completed the audit. Supposing, okay, now you have completed the audit again from 2018-20, or from the date of issue of audit report. From the date of issue of audit report, uh, from that date up to 7 years at least you need to store such audit file. For example, what happened is you prepare audit file, but you have deleted or discarded or destroyed it before 7 years. Okay, now after before 7 years, and then after discarding only next day, the income tax authority have came to you and said that the entities, for this entity you have done audit, and during that financial year we have identified a fraud now, and as your auditor, please give me the working papers of you to see whether on what basis you have given unmodified opinion after, even though there is a fraud, and And if your working papers show the contents of audit procedures performed by you is sufficient or are effective enough, then you will be saved. But you are saying that, sir, I have performed the audit procedures beautifully, sir. Very complex audit procedures I have performed, and sample was high. In a proper way, I have understand the entity. You are saying all that orally, but they were asking, show me the working paper. We will itself see that all. You are saying, sir, yesterday only I discarded, sir. Oh my God! Please come. We will penalize you, and I will send you to jail. They will बोल के say, okay ना? So 7 years at least you have to keep. For example, they came after 7 years. After 7 years, you have discarded, for example, destroyed it audit file, then no problem. You can say that, sir, as per statute, at least 7 years I have to maintain. Now 7 years has been expired. I cannot show you working papers as I destroyed it, and you will be on the safe side. Okay, na? Ownership, sir. Who is the owner of the audit file? Array, audit file owner is you only, man. Audit file. See, in that example I have given, no, audit file will save you in such a situation when fraud is identified, even though you didn't detected such fraud in the entity. Why? Because it contains all the information relating the audit procedures performed by you, evidences obtained by you. If they are good enough, definitely reasonable enough, definitely the regulatory bodies will save you. Okay, na? So it is a property of you only. May make any extracts available to clients. If the client want any extracts of it, you can authorize them to take such extracts. Now we are coming to the concept of permanent audit file and current audit file. So what is permanent audit file? Communication with the retiring. See, there are two audit files, my dear students. Permanent audit file and current audit file. Auditor will maintain one permanent audit file relating to one entity and a current audit file which is maintained in subsequent audits. Didn't understood, sir? I will make you understood. For example, there is an entity. You are going for the audit of such entity as a first auditor, or first time. You are first time doing the audit of such entity. You are new to such entity as an auditor. Then during the first year, you whatever audit file is generated by you shall be called as permanent audit file, because that is first time you are doing audit of such a entity. Now second year also you will come, third year also you will come and do audit, fourth year also you will come and do audit. In subsequent years also you are only the auditor, right? Now in the subsequent years, whatever the audit file you are generating shall be called as current audit file, and there shall be a slight difference between the permanent audit file and current audit file. That thing I will going to discuss it right now. Communication with the retiring auditor. Okay, na? In permanent audit file is whatever the points have written as the branches showing in the video permanent audit file bolke, that are nothing but the contents to be written in the permanent audit file by an auditor. Sir, in the permanent audit file, the matters to be written are as follows. The first matter is communications with the retiring auditor. Now, permanent audit file is prepared in the year or during the audit during the first audit of a new entity. During the audit of a new entity to you, okay na? Okay. Definitely the previous year audit was done by the retiring auditor for such an entity. Then you need to communicate with such retiring auditor. So you need to communicate with such retiring auditor means what? Means you should make some make some queries from the retiring auditor. Ask him his working papers. Okay, verify his working papers relating to the previous audit. Very good. And again, you can ask him how the entity's management's integrity is, how the employees are in his point of view, what shall be the risk of material misstatement, okay, etc. things where you have a doubt relating to the entity, you can ask. And whatever you are asking and getting the responses from the retiring auditor, that shall also be documented. And hence you are documenting it in a permanent audit file, that is communications with the retiring auditor. The second thing that you are okay now recording in permanent audit file is information regarding legal and organization structure before performing the audit of the our new client. Okay now we will document the information regarding its legal and organization structure. What is the legal structure? Legal structure, it means whether the entity is a sole proprietor or a partnership firm or a company or a cooperative society or a section 8 company, etc., etc. Legal form we will write, my dear students. Sir, what is organization structure? We will see the organization chart. First, who is the main person? Okay na, management or TCWG, then management, board of directors, okay na, then senior officers, senior managers, then employees, part-time, etc. Like that organization structure also we will have a look at, and also we will document that also. Then third one is any copies and legal documents and agreements. Any copies and legal documents and agreements. If the legal documents regarding the entity, for example, the memorandum of association and articles of association are the legal documents relating to a particular company, and that also you are making for that also you are documenting, and that also making a separate working paper of MOA and AOA. Okay now, if any specific agreements are entered by the entity, such agreements also you having a look at. Okay now, have taking such copies and making them also documented. Okay now, that is also very very important. Why sir I'm gathering this all information? What necessary of MOA AOA and what necessary of any specific agreements? Are my dear student, you forgot permanent audit file. When will prepare? You would you if the when there is our new client to us, if for a particular entity first time we are doing audit, that time no, and for a particular entity we are doing audit for first time, then definitely we need to obtain knowledge about such entity or not. Definitely you need to get the knowledge of such entity and its environment. To get the knowledge you require this all or not? Yes, by communicating with retiring auditor you will get to knowledge of the entity. By seeing the legal structure, organization structure, you will get the knowledge. By seeing the legal documents and agreements, you will get the knowledge. Yes or no? Link it with the concept. Record of study and evaluation of internal controls. See, as I said, 315 again we are going. See, obtaining the knowledge of entity and its environment, again also internal controls, assessing the ROMM. There only we are going see again and again. This is very very important to understand client's business. Without understanding anything, we shall not go blindly. Okay now, record of study and evaluation of internal controls you need to make. Okay, that also shall be documented. Okay now copies of audit or previous audited affairs, previously audited financial statements are there, that also help us to know the financial performance of the entity. So knowing the financial performance is also obtaining the knowledge of entity only. No, yes sir. Analysis of significant ratios and trends, that is nothing but analytical review procedures. We are doing analysis of ratios and trends, and if any variations are there we will document it. If not there also we will document the positive statement. Significant accounting policies. Okay, what are the accounting policies? Significant accounting policies applicable to this nature of business we need to identify, and significant observations of earlier years. So one more key point I am saying you, what the permanent audit file contains those, once again, contains those matters which 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 remains permanent. That's why the name permanent is given to that. See, the communication with the retiring auditor, whatever the communication you have got from the retiring auditor, it is permanent. In future, it will not change, right? No. Again, information regarding legal and organizational structure. It is a company, then it is a company. It will not change. Sir, it may be changed. No, sir. Yes, it might be changed, but it is permanent up to certain extent or not? I am saying yes, it is permanent information. Again, year by year when you are doing subsequent audit, it will not change, and hence it is called as permanent. Any copies and legal documents and agreements that MOA are also permanent. Okay, up to certain extent, record of study and evaluation of internal controls placed by the management are permanent. Copies of previous audited affairs, obviously, again analysis of significant ratio. These are all things are most probably permanent up to certain extent, and therefore they are included in permanent audit file, and these are all analyzed during the first time audit only. So again, what is current audit file? Current audit file is audit file prepared in the subsequent audit. Subsequent audit. Second time you are doing audit. Third time you are doing audit. Fourth time. So that time, what are the audit file? Working papers you are generating, that is called as current audit file. It relates the information only during the what information or working paper only which have accrued or happened only during such previous year or financial year of which you have done the audit, not permanent for whole entity. Okay, now. So current audit file is the information relating to such period only, whereas permanent audit file contains the contents which is permanent irrespective of the period. Now, current audit file matters are correspondence relating to acceptance of annual reappointment. See, again, first time audit done, second time also you are the auditor, but the entity shall send you one correspondence relating to the reappointment. Reappointment nothing but for second year also you are only the reappointed as auditor bulk. So what is the correspondence sent by the organization relating to the acceptance of annual reappointment? Second one is evidence of planning and audit program for the current year. For the current year financial statements audit, what is your audit plan? What is your audit program? Sir, last year's one only. I'll beat you. What last year's one? Last year the transactions, number of transactions incurred is different. Everything is different. Might be this year the capacity of entity is increased, maybe efficiency is increased or decreased, whatever it may be happen, new contracts have been entered or not entered. Okay, na, definitely based on such risk of material misstatement may be high or less, etc. factors are there. Okay, na, based on last audit report issued by you shall not issue the same opinion again you need to check the new financial statements. Definitely for that new planning shall be there and new audit program shall be prepared. Record of nature, extent and timing of the audit procedures performed. Definitely you will make a record. External count, these all are the minute things. WRL is separate essay we have on WRL, we'll discuss, that is uh, representation letters, and communication with other auditors, experts and third parties, conclusions reached, and copies of current year affairs. All this information, when you carefully observe, all this information content in the current audit file relate to the current period only. Yes or no? Yes. Audit planning of audit program of current year only. NET of current year only. External confirmation and a WRL obtained for the current period only. Okay, now conclusions reached of the current financial statements. Copies of obviously current year financial statements. These are all the current information. Okay, now but permanent is not that one. Permanent is the one which is prepared initially, and this we will, any auditor, as an auditor, if you are going, you have got a new client and you are going for the audit of such client for the first time, then you have to prepare PAF, that's permanent audit file. You have to record all the permanent things relating to the entity in that permanent audit file, and in the subsequent years you have to record current audit file. This is a compulsion by the statute. Okay, na? So once you have a proper understanding relating to the permanent audit file and current audit file, I can able to understand the communication with the retiring auditor, information regarding legal and organizational structure, any copies and legal documents and agreements, record of study and evaluation of internal controls, copies of previous audited affairs, analysis of significant ratios and trends, significant accounting policies, significant observations of early years. And here also this is very simple. Okay, now current audit file means whatever audit work you are doing, that you need to recordable. Okay. Then after audit file we have audit notebook. Audit file you understand now, and two types of audit file also you understand now. Now let us read about audit notebook. What is the meaning? It is usually a bound book in which a large variety of matters observed during the course of audit are recorded. Forms part of document. Each year fresh audit notebook is maintained. So, what is audit notebook, Nana? It is usually a bound book in which a large variety of matters observed during the course of audit are recorded. From see, for a particular entity during a particular financial year, you are doing the audit. While performing the audit, you have okay identified various variety of matters. Okay, variety matters, it may be relating to anything. Okay now, while studying internal controls, you have found new type of internal controls and you want to note it down. You are noting it. While analyzing inherent risk, you have found new type of inherent risk, you want to note it down for your remembrance. Please note it. It depends upon the judgment of auditor. If he thinks something to be noted down, he can note it. Are baba, when you are learning anything, okay, suppose you are taking the textbook and learning any lesson, and if you found any a point which is very much new to you, definitely you will make a note of it. Likewise, the auditor, even though he has the knowledge of auditing, if any find any new thing in internal controls, wherever it might be, he can nicely note it down. Okay now, for enhancement of knowledge, etc. In where he can note it down, in audit notebook he can note it down. Oh, this audit notebook is also part of documentation only, and this audit notebook is also your asset, your property. This is also acts as an evidence that the audit is planned and performed effectively. Okay, no. So it is usually a bound book, a big book, a bound book in which a large variety of matters are recorded during the course of the audit. Forms part of the documentation. Each year fresh audit notebook is maintained. Nana, true or false? Each year fresh audit book is maintained. True. Yes. Each year the fresh audit notebook is maintained. And why sir? Why in same book we can continue? No re. For this notebook is for the financial year 2018-19 of this entity. Again next year we will take fresh notebook. This is for 2019-20. Again 2020-21 new one, like that. Okay na. Classification falls under current audit file. Oh, sir, audit notebook falls under current or permanent? Definitely, it will, as you are maintaining one book for one or okay now audit years. Definitely, it will fall under current only, because only the current information you are making note of. No. What are the benefits of the audit notebook? It helps in tracking the links of work when concerned assistant is away or the work is stopped temporarily. Okay, na? For example, you have allocated work to a particular audit staff. Okay, na? Now, what happened is, due to certain reasons or contingencies, the such audit staff has performed the task assigned by you only up to certain extent or certain percentage, and because of certain reason, he was left from the engagement team. Now, the other one shall go and continue his work, but the other one may not be in a position to take his work forward. Okay, na? And there is also not more time to begin it from initially. So what happens is, whenever that previous audit staff members went, no, there in the audit notebook you will make a record that these are up to this extent the task is done, and still this is to be done, bulky. So like that you can track the link of work from where to begin or where to end. It helps in tracking the links of works. Concerned assistant is away or the work is stopped temporarily. It is also used for recording various queries and their state of disposal. You have various doubts by doing the specific audit. You are doing audit for a particular area and you have got queries relating to various things, why this machinery is like that, or why the process of inventory counting is like that, why this only, and why this invoice is not signed, etc. Queries you have, you can make a note of it. See, you are a human, you may forget it, so please make a note of it. And their state of disposal, In respect of disposed queries, disposal means nothing but you have created a query in audit notebook. You'll definitely ask with TCWG and management, and if you get satisfied with their answer, then you will strike off that question. That is called as disposal of query, striking off. In respect of disposal of queries, explanation obtained and evidence seen would be recorded in the said book. See, just a striking off of question is not important. Below that question, for answer you need to write no what explanation you got. That explanation you will write. And if any audit evidence you have got, that evidence also you will attach there. Okay na? While queries remaining undisposed of would be noted for follow-up. If the queries for which you are not getting answers, then please it should be follow up with to the management till you get the answer. So benefits: tracking the linkage of work and recording of various queries and disposal of queries. Remember that of audit notebook. Okay now. Now assertions. I have said no. But transactions, there are assertions. Or account balances, they are assertions. I'll please explain you in detail. Assertions. Representations. What is the meaning of assertion? I'm saying representations given by the management with respect to class of transactions, account balances, or disclosures in affairs. That's what representations given by the management with respect to the class of transactions. It means P&L items. Account balances, it means balance sheet items. Disclosures in affairs means notes to accounts, my dear. Okay na? Now, for compliance procedures, what are the assertions? Oh, do you remember what is compliance procedures? Compliance procedures are nothing but a study of internal controls. Study of internal controls. Okay. And understanding internal controls and assessing the control risk. Very good. While assessing the control risk, or while checking whether the internal controls placed by the management are properly running or not, for the following three assertions, you need to obtain audit evidence. If you are an auditor and you are an audit staff and an audit partner, I am saying you please do compliance procedures, obtain understanding of the internal controls, and tell me whether the control risk of this entity is high or low. You were confused. You don't know what to do there. See, now I am explaining you what to do. Beta, please obtain audit evidence. Please obtain the evidence relating to the existence of internal controls. Sir, existence of internal controls means what, sir? Whether the internal controls, whatever the management is showing in the policies and procedure book of the rules and regulations books of the company, whether they're actually existing or not. So how I can obtain the audit evidence relating to the existence? See, there is one internal control, for example, that a particular uh, sales invoice, sale of the fixed assets, I am saying, if particular fixed asset is to be disposed or is to be sold, then it must be approved by CFO. After a CFO approval, it should be approved by CEO and also the managing director. Now, what happens? You need to take out the sale invoice, okay, na, of such fixed asset, and see whether these three persons' signature is there on that or not as the approval. If it is there, then the internal control is in existence and it is effectively running. If not there, definitely in books though it is written, but not existing and not effective, I will write. Okay na? So, like that, we can obtain audit evidence relating to the existence. If the internal controls are existing, see whether they are effective or not. Yes, sir, they are existing and effective. Hey, if this existence and effective is not just enough, the same must be operated throughout 12 months. Not, see, in April I operate, sir, May, June, July not operating, November I am operating, December no, continuity means throughout the 12 months, 365 days, 24 by 7 internal control shall be in operation. Okay na, that is called as continuity. Internal controls must be in existence, and at the same time it must be effective means the related inherent risk shall be mitigated, then only it is called as effectives. And third one is continuity. So what are the three assertions relating to the controls? Existence, effectiveness and continuity. Existence related to internal controls. Effectiveness and if the internal controls placed are detecting, DCP means detecting, correcting and preventing the misstatements, it is then called as effective. And continuity is internal controls effectively operating throughout the financial year. Now third point, Nana, for substantive procedures. Okay, na? For substantive procedures, we are going to learn what are the assertions. Okay, na? What are the assertions for the substantive procedures? Wait a minute. Rather saying for substantive procedures, I will call it as assertions for P&L items. What I will call it as assertion for P&L items and account balances. The following assertions are for P&L and account balances. For example, you are checking one P&L item. What you are checking? Purchases. Purchases P&L item or not? Yes. Okay, now you are checking the purchases. While checking the purchases, existence is related to only assets and liability, my dear students. Okay, now occurrence is there, no, occurrence is related to P&L items. Please make note of it, Nana. Sorry, yeah, I have not classified it properly. Plus, please make a note of it that occurrence assertion is related to P&L items, whereas existence is related to asset and liabilities. Why the reason I will say. See, occurrence. P&L item contains the transactions which have occurred during the whole the year, during all 12 months. Yes or no? Yes, sir. Now, whatever the transactions I am recording in the P&L, whether they are actually incurred or the management is creating any fake amounts, fake invoices and inflating the purchases, or it is destroying certain invoices and deflating the purchases, we need to see whether it has occurred or not. Bulke. Okay. Now, the first job of auditor while doing the audit of purchase, your duty is to obtain audit evidence related to occurrence of the purchase transactions. Okay, suppose you are selected certain 50 invoices, you are checking 50 invoices. For all 50 invoices of purchase invoices, whether all these 50 purchase transactions actually occurred or not, relating to that you will obtain audit evidence. Okay, now no. Sir, how I will obtain, what I will obtain, that is in advanced level you will learn, in later chapters also you will learn, but you remember just this, that occurrence assertion may comfort, to get the comfort on occurrence assertion, please obtain audit evidence relating to that. Cutoff is also related to transaction only. Cutoff. Make sure that all the purchase transactions what have been incurred during the current year are recorded or not. Or last year's transaction has been recorded in this year, or next year transaction is recorded in this year, then please make a correction of it. Please communicate it to the TCWG. Okay, na? So cutoff means transactions and events have been recorded in the correct accounting period. Okay, na? Now measurement is also related to transaction P&L items assertions only. Now see, you are doing audit of purchases. First, you have got comfort on occurrence. Ah, Baba, all transactions have been occurred actually only. And you got comfort on cutoff. Yes, sir, all the transactions are related to current accounting period only. Now, the value, whatever they are showing in the P&L corresponding to the purchase, the value is correct only or not? Regarding to that, you need to get comfort. So that is called as measurement assertion. So amounts and other data related to recorded transaction and events have been recorded appropriately or not. Checking that is called as getting comfort on measurement wala. So suppose you got audit evidence relating to measurement, that the whatever number they are showing for purchases is correct. So you obtain satisfaction for the purchases on cutoff, on occurrence and measurement also. Sir, valuation is the word valuation is used for balance sheet items. Completeness is for both, for transactions also and account balances also. Completeness is what you need to obtain audit evidence whether all the purchase transactions incurred or occurred are recorded or not, or if anything is missed or unrecorded, you need to obtain audit evidence regarding that. If you are not able to obtain audit evidence regarding that, then you may the same shall be then that same shall be reported in the audit report, and you may give a modified opinion because there is a misstatement, right? Now, Classification. Classification assertion related to only transaction items, that is transactions, that is P&L items, nana. Nothing but I have already said transaction and events have been recorded in the proper accounts. Nothing but classification has been made between capital and revenue expenditure also you can write. Okay, now presentation and disclosures is nothing but presentation and disclosures related means the financial statements are as per applicable financial reporting framework or not. That is the only thing you need to ensure there. Sir, then what are related to balance sheet items? That is the account balances. Existence is related. How occurrence is related to the transaction? Existence. Sir, whatever the assets or liabilities which had been shown in the balance sheet of the entity, whether they are actually belonging to the entity. So whatever the fixed assets they are showing 10 lakhs fixed assets, whether all these fixed assets actually belong to them, whether this liability actually related to entity or any personal liability of director, there might be chance, right? So for checking that whether correct properly assets or liabilities are existing for the entity or not, you need to obtain audit evidences relating to existence of assets and liabilities as on the balance sheet date. Okay, now cut off, so measurement. Next one is measurement is for transactions, right? Valuation is related to transactions, my dear students. So you have often not, you have got comfort relating to existence. Baba all the fixed assets are all the fixed assets are of entities only, and they are in actually in existence and are used in business. But the valuation they are showing for the machine, that is correct or not. By obtaining comfort on valuation, you can check it. Assets and liabilities are included in the financial statements at appropriate amounts or not, and corresponding valuations are properly accounted or not. So the depreciation is followed as per company's act or not, if it is a company entity. Okay, na? The cost, whatever the cost they have added to the cost of machinery, that is accurate or not, etc. Things you need to check it. Okay, na? As an auditor, you know the accounting standards. AS10, you know. AS10 says all the instructions, gives you the instructions, guidance relating to the determining the cost of asset. By using that rules, you can see whether proper valuation of asset has been done or not. Okay, 1 minute, Nana. Now, next we will start documentation of significant matters based on the analysis of facts and circumstances. Professional judgment of auditor. I said no in audit notebook. What are the variety matters I will record? See, any significant matters in your point of view. If in your point of view it is significant, then please record it. Factors determining for significant matters related identified significant risks, circumstances arises material mistake. These are more small things, nana. Significant difficulties for conducting audit procedures, auditor observe or findings that result. You can write own also. What are the factors determining significant matters? He is saying that all the significant matters is as per the professional judgment of auditor, which we must document. Okay, but which matter is a significant, which matter is not significant, that classification, how an auditor should do, on what factors he will determine such classification. These are certain factors. See, we can write anything. If the risk is high, then it may be significant. Controls are weak, it may be significant. Okay, now, and audit procedures to be performed are 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 complex, then you can perform. Okay, now audit documentation summary. I made a summary for audit documentation. At the end of the audit, the auditor may prepare a completion memorandum which includes the significant matters identified during the audit, how they were addressed. So the audit, whatever the documentation working papers he had gathered, all the working papers one summary memorandum he need to create. He must issue a memorandum, a summary memorandum. These are the things I have notified, I have identified. significant matters I have identified, and these significant items are addressed by obtaining this audit evidence and this explanations. Okay, like that. So a memorandum means nothing but summary of the audit documentation is also issued by auditor with the completion of audit. Okay, Pre- prepared for big and complex audits. So this whatever the memorandum I'm saying now, a memorandum that is nothing but summary of the whole audit documentation. It is prepared generally for big and complex audits. This summary may help the auditor for identifying and documenting significant matters arisen. Yes, overall objectives are achieved or not. This significant matters nothing but if as an auditor there are certain matters relating to the fraud or a big huge mistakes and errors, definitely those are significant affecting the financial statements. See, you have to also think as in the point of view of shareholder while auditing, because the shareholder is investing in the company, his funds shall not be misappropriately used. So your responsibility is to protect the shareholders, so you have to be very diligent. Okay, and try to identify each and every matter which is significantly affecting the financial statements, because which what the matters where you are sensing any foul smell. What are you saying, sir? Sensing any foul smell relating to the fraud or error. So the same thing you will discuss with TCWG. See, fraud or error is not only committed by management, it is also committed by employees without the, and the management may not have the knowledge of it also, and hence we will communicate in sometimes the identified fraud with management. Now one more small concept: examination in depth or walkthrough test. Actually, the examination in depth or walkthrough test concept is, you will understand the better in chapter 4, but I will give a brief of it. Nothing is examination depth and walkthrough are nothing but I'll give a proper example for it. Okay, you are an auditor. For now you are going to perform an audit of a particular entity. Okay, and the first step is you will perform risk assessment procedures. In risk assessment procedures, by making inquiries with management, by performing ARPs, by observing, inspecting various documents, etc. You have obtained the knowledge relating to the entity and its environment, and based on that you have identified the risks, inherent risks. Then corresponding controls you have identified. You have seen whether they are strong enough or not. You have selected certain controls. Okay, you are testing them whether they are existing or not, they are effective or not, they are continuity or not. If you got comfort, then control risk is low. If you're not getting comfort, control risk is high. Like that you are ascertaining the risk of material misstatement on the overall FS, and also at assertion level also you will do it. Okay na? No, before testing the controls, I have said you one point: understanding the internal controls bulk. The process of understanding the internal controls and the such process is called as walkthrough or examination in depth, my dear. Are you able to understand? I will make you understand. See, there is an internal control on one type of transaction. The type of transaction is sale of fixed assets. Okay na? Sale of fixed assets. Okay, I will give you two scenarios. Scenario number one, or case number one, the accountant. Case number one is there are no internal controls. Assume there are no internal controls in the management, in the entity. In the entity. Okay na? Then, then what happens is the accountant itself is selling off the fixed asset, and whatever the sale amount he is getting, okay, whatever sale amount he is getting, he is taking the amount to his home. Okay, not accounting for it in the accounting system. Then 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 there is a chance of a fraud there, because there is no internal control. Case number two: what happens if internal controls are placed? Internal controls, what kind of internal control I can place on this transaction, sir? I'll give you example, don't worry. Before making the sale of any fixed asset, first that head of the department of fixed assets shall approve. After his approval, it must be approved by the CFO. After CFO, it must be approved by the CEO. And finally, you can make the sale of it. See, these three persons approval you require. As an accountant and employee, as you require these three personal approval, you cannot do such on your own now. Okay, na? You are restricted from committing the fraud. So that's why internal controls are very very effective now. Now, as an auditor, you are seeing the policy and policies created by the management in that policy list. This is one internal control you have identified relating to this transaction, and you were very much happy with such internal control that three persons approval is required from the management to sell the fixed asset. Okay, na? Now now what happened is you are trying to understand the process. What process? The process adopted by the entity to sell the fixed asset. Process number one is you will make quotations. This is a process given in the policies. Okay, na? The entity must make quotations. Again, make while making the quotations, there may be chance of a fraud where a particular person may make a quotation, may ask the quotation from a related party. Okay, from his related party to make profit to his related party. So what happens is you place the internal control with such a stage. So quotation is the first stage of Nana. Don't get confused. Asking for quotation is the first stage of this transaction. Yes or no? Stage number one. Asking for quotation is the stage number one for this transaction. See, near quotations itself, you have one inherent risks of making a fraud by any person. So to remove that risk, you have made an internal control. What is that internal control? Bhaiya, you need to ask at least 4 quotations from 4 buyers. Get quotations, 4 quotations at least from the 4 buyers, and please give the details of such buyers. So this is internal control plays to such inherent risk. Then the second stage after quotation is okay, na? Sale deed of fixed asset. Sale deed, if a particular person is authorized to sign the sale deed, he can also make a fraud by selling it at inflated price, okay, personally, and showing a lower price to the management, and the difference is taken by him. Okay, na? Then one internal control in place. Whatever the sale deed agreement is there shall be approved by MD, CEO, CFO. Then these three guys also will verify it. Then they will approve. So the person who is dealing with the buyer will not make any fraud there. Now, stage number 2 in transaction hour. Then what is the stage number 3? Stage number 3 is nothing but receiving the amount. Okay, na? Receiving the amount and making entry in the accounting system. If the amount is received in the bank account, or if a check is received by any person who is authorized, any employee, then he may also make a fraud. He can take that amount and jump. So what happens is we have to make again one internal control there. What internal control we can make there, Nana? Okay, the check shall be received in the presence of the CFO. So that is the internal control place there. Again, in accounting system, accountant may do some fraud. He may omit to write the entry of fixed asset. Okay, na? So there also you can place an internal control that the work performed by the accountant of passing the journal entry shall be reviewed by another person. This is called internal check. That means accountant work is reviewed by another person. It means accountant must do such work. Then only other person will follow up him. No, are you able to understand it? So what I have done now, stage by stage, I have identified how the transaction flows. Okay, of that entity relating to the sale of fixed asset, and each stage I have identified certain risks, and at each stage I have identified the corresponding internal controls, and I think these internal controls are very strong, and therefore my control risk shall be less as per this. This is called as walkthrough examination. This process of reading the transaction stage by stage, how I have explained you now, is called as walkthrough, Nana. Okay, that is only there here. Stage by stage, studying each stage through which the transaction passes. Okay, now from starting to the end. You can write it in your own words. Okay, now. No, the last topic we are left with in this chapter, that is audit evidence and types and reliability. I think you know much better than me what is audit evidence. Okay, 1 minute. Okay, no. Yeah. Audit evidence types and reliability of audit evidence. Nana. Audit evidence is all information and explanation obtained by auditor while performing audit and able to draw conclusions and form opinion, true and failure. I think by reading you can able to understand it. And now types. We will discuss the types of audit evidence. Types of audit evidence are based on three things: based on the source, based on the nature, and also based on the level of examination. That is in next page. Based on the source, audit evidence are of two types: internal and external. If the audit evidence is obtained by the entity, from the entity you are obtaining any audit evidence, it's called as internal audit evidence. And from outside third parties you are obtaining any information or explanations, that is called as external. Nature. Nature is divided into three: visual, documentary, and oral. If you are obtaining the visual audit evidence, for example, fixed assets verification has been done on 31st March. Okay, 31st March. So you are going to the location where the verification of fixed assets and valuation is being carried out by the management. You are physically present there. Okay, now analyzing the process followed by the entity in evaluation of fixed assets. You are seeing such process is accurate or not, and all the things are going well or not. On based on that, you have came to a conclusion that is everything is fine, valuation is perfect. So on what basis you are saying that visual, that audit evidence obtained visually from, through your eyes, right? So that is called as visual audit evidence. Documentary in written form, all the invoices are evidence for an occurrence of transaction. That is nothing but document, nana. Again, oral, you are asking any inquiries, making inquiries with management or external parties, they will orally explain to you the process. So that is called oral audit evidence. Even though you are obtaining a visual and oral audit evidence, the same shall be again written down in working papers, documented. Okay. 1 minute. 1 minute, Nana. Something went wrong. Yeah. Again, based on level of examination, audit evidence are of two types: prima facie, conclusive evidence. Prima facie means without in detail examination. And for example, ROMOM assessed is very low, then you will do general testing, normal audit procedures, and a prima facie, just a normal audit evidence, is sufficient. Okay, now because ROMO, risk of material misstatement is low, and if the risk of material misstatement is high, you will perform complex audit procedures, and you try to obtain, okay, conclusive evidences, because you don't want to, okay, you don't want to give lenience to the management to cover their fraud, because chance of fraud is high, right? So you will do in little bit more in detail examination. Factors including SA and AAE, okay, insufficient and appropriate audit evidence. This is very easy, Nana. Okay. Now these are the audit techniques which are very simple: inspection, observation, inquiries, external confirmation, competition. These are very simple. Okay, Nana. So with this we have completed the chapter 2 successfully. This was the part 2 of the chapter 2. Be patient, learn well. Thank you so much. If you have seen the video whole, okay, na? Love you all. And if possible, like the video. And if you didn't like it, please dislike the video. Okay, no matter what happens. And if you didn't like the video, write in the comments why you didn't like it. Okay, na, Nana? Thank you so much.